Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And greetings to Dr. Afrizal and fellow friends. We are from Group 3 and we will be presenting on social development in adolescence. Before we go further into our presentation, I would like to introduce our group members first. My name is Irene Farihang binti Hairul Anwar, and I am going to explain what we have to know about adolescent social development. Our next presenter is Nur Wahidatul Aizah binti Muhammad Nasir, and she is going to present about factors and stages that is related to adolescent social development. Next, Muhammad Syamil bin Muhammad Zamuruddin will present about the theories related to social development in adolescence. Lastly, Muhammad Ainul bin Muhammad Zaid will present about the risk issues related to social development in adolescence. He also will conclude our presentation. Before we go further into our presentation, we have to know the meaning of adolescence and the meaning of social development. Adolescence is the transitional period from childhood to adulthood that is marked by changes in the body, the mind, and in social relationships. So the timeline of adolescence is between 10 to 19 years old. Social development is the process in which an individual grows into a functioning member of the society, meaning that it is the journey of becoming an individual who can work, live, and connect well with others in the society. It is also the process of establishing a sense of identity, which means they try to figure out who they are as a person. Social development is also the process that reflects an individual's ability to form close relationships and secure relationships with their family, peers, and relatives. It is about the process of becoming emotionally connected to others and form meaningful bonds, which are the key to emotional well-being and social success. Now, we know the meaning of adolescence and the meaning of social development. So, let's go further into our presentation by looking into social development in adolescence and how are they related. We also will look into the factors, stages, risks, and also the theories related to adolescent social development. Our social development begins even before we become adolescents. For example, we can see that during toddlers, we learn to share ourselves with others. We also imitate actions like waving goodbye, clapping, or blowing kisses. Other than that, we also repeated words from adults. Meanwhile, during children, we learn the rules of playground games. We understand the basic empathy by recognizing when a friend is sad. We also tend to pretend doing household activities, and we tend to role play among our peers. These examples are the fundamental building blocks of social development. However, social development during adolescence is more complex. Now, we will look into adolescent social development. Social development is a continuous process throughout our lifespan. However, it plays an important role during adolescence. This is because any decision that is made at this phase can lead to social consequences. Social development is also the process that develops individuals from limited roles during childhood to broader roles during adulthood. During social development, adolescents expand their social circles. For example, young children spend most of their time with their family, but their social circles expand a bit when they enter school. However, it expands a lot more during adolescence. This is because their network consists of people from student organizations, their team sports, or their roommates. So when their social circles expand, they spend less time with their family and focus more on their peers. Socially, the close relationship and dependence on family members tend to begin to give way to more intense relationships between peers and adults outside of their family members. Adolescents also expand their social roles. This is because at this period they are entrusted with greater responsibility. For example, they may hold a leadership position in school, like being a class monitor or a club president. Meanwhile, at home, they might help care for the younger siblings. Other than that, they also begin to engage in romantic relationships. Meanwhile, in the context of community, they may involve themselves in local events or community programs. As I mentioned before, adolescents expand their social roles and social circles because they have a broad social network. Therefore, their social interactions become more complex, which helps them to develop important social skills. For example, they learn to navigate different social groups. They learn the unwritten social rules. They learn to they learn to become more aware of others' feelings. They also have the ability to empathize and the ability to appreciate the unique differences among their peers. Lastly, adolescents explore and form their identity. They are busy working out who they are and where they want to fit in the world. During this phase, they are asking themselves what kind of person they want to be, what are their beliefs and values, and what are their strengths and weaknesses. They also try to understand themselves by exploring different roles, interests, and relationships. They also begin to form their values, beliefs, and goals. These are important to help them develop a clear sense of themselves. Now we have a clear foundation of understanding the key aspects of social development during adolescence. We also have go through and explore the fundamental concepts of adolescent social development. Moving on, the next presenter will provide a more detailed explanation of what we have to know regarding adolescent social development.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Waidatul Aida binti Muhammad Nasi, and now I will talk about the factors that influence the social development in adolescence. So the first factor is family. So adolescents begins to distance themselves from their parents as they start to explore their own identity. They often spend more time with peers than with family. This decrease in the time spent may be a reflection of the teenagers' greater desire for independence, or we call it autonomy. So it is normal for teenagers to distance themselves and establish relationships outside of their families in preparation for adulthood. So, other than that, teens begin to seek greater control of decisions that affect their daily lives. They often feel they should make decisions in areas previously managed by parents. As a result, arguments between parents and adolescents become more frequent. So, as teens grow older, more compromise is reached between parents and teenagers. So, the nature of parent child relationship and the level of affection can give a certain effect in adolescent social development. So, research indicates that teens with secure attachments to their parents show fewer emotional problems and are less likely to engage in problematic behaviors and tend to form more positive peer relationships. Next is peers. As children become adolescents, they usually begin spending more time with their peers and less time with their families. So these peer interactions are often unsupervised by adults. The level of influence that peers can have over adolescents make this relationship particularly important in their personal development. So, adolescents with positive peer relationships are happier and better adjusted than those who are socially isolated or have conflictual peer relationships. Teens also tend to adopt likes, habits, and behavior of the people around them. This is called peer influence, and it explains why many teens start liking the same music, fashion, or even problematic behaviors just because their friends do. They tend to want to fit in, and sometimes it's enough to see that something is accepted by a group to feel pressure to do the same.
A lot of people want to be accepted. Making friends is a way to feel like you fit in. But if the friends you choose make unhealthy choices, you may feel pressure to make those same decisions. Negative peer pressure can motivate people to make unhealthy choices and engage in risky behaviors.
Third culture, the degree to which adolescents are perceived as autonomous or independent beings varies widely across cultures, and this variation is closely linked to the cultural values that shape identity and social expectations. Individualistic societies, dependence and self-expression are encouraged and seen as signs of maturity. For example, Western cultures such as United States. These cultures promote autonomy as a symbol of success, valuing freedom and distinct personal identity. On the other hand, in collectivist cultures, such as those found in many parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, adolescents may develop a sense of self that is strongly intertwined with their family and community. As a result, the behaviors that reflect growing independence, whether it's decision making, managing responsibilities, or asserting identity, are deeply influenced by the cultural context in which adolescents are raised. Lastly, media. Media is an agent of socialization that can influence our political views, our taste in popular culture, or views of women's, people of color, and the LGBTQ community, and many other beliefs and practices. Social media simply reflects how powerful peer influence can be. The more likes a photo has, the more likely a teen may prefer it, even if it relates to content they don't agree with. The self-disclosure required to social media can have both positive and negative outcome. The definition of friend have changed, and now our social connections are bigger than ever before. So now I will move on to the stages of social development in adolescence. So according to Team Marcia theory, which is theory of identity development, Marcia identified 4 stages, which is identity status that represents the 4 possible combinations and the dimension of commitment and exploration. So the first stage is identity diffusion. Adolescents in the identity diffusion stage have not yet begun to explore or commit to a set of values, beliefs, or goals. Adolescents adamantly avoid conflict or discomfort and are highly motivated by pleasure. They show little progress towards forming a clear sense of identity and often lack direction or purpose. As a result, they may feel disconnected from others and uncertain about their future, drifting without a strong sense of who they are or where they are going. So the second stage is identity foreclosure. Adolescents in the foreclosure stage have not explored different identity options for themselves. Instead, they accept the beliefs, values, or goals given to them by parents or others in their lives. They haven't gone through a personal identity crisis, not because they lack identity, but because they have adopted one that was shaped by family or cultural expectations. For these teens, commitment is high but explorations is low. Adolescents who are in foreclosure feel no need to question the identities already assigned to them, nor do they consider any alternatives. So the third stage is identity moratorium. Adolescents in the moratorium stage are actively exploring who they are and what they believe in, but they haven't made any firm decisions yet. This stage can be confusing and stressful as they try out different roles, values, and ideas. They are in the middle of figuring things out with many questions and few clear answers. At this point, exploration is high yet commitment is low, and adolescents begin to experiment with several different identities, values, and beliefs. They are keeping their options open. So the last stage is identity achievement. Adolescents in the identity achievement stage have explored their options and made personal decisions about their values and beliefs. So they have moved through the identity crisis and now have a clear sense of who they are, what matters to them, and what they want in life. This stage takes time and is not always reached during adolescence. Next, I will pass the presentation to our next presenter.
Okay, good morning everyone. Today I'll be talking about three theories, which is psychosocial theory, James Marshall's identity development theory, and Albert Bandura's social learning theory. Okay, let's begin with the Erikson psychosocial theory. Erikson proposed that human development occurs in 8 stages, each characterized by a psychosocial conflict that must be resolved. This conflict shapes our personality and social functioning. For example, in adolescence, the key conflict is identity vs role confusion. This is when teens explore different roles and try to figure out who am I. If they successfully form a stable identity, they move forward with confidence. If not, they may struggle with insecurity about their future. Here are the 8 stages from infancy to late adulthood. Each stage has its own central challenge, such as trust, autonomy, intimacy, and or integrity. The idea is that unresolved issue in one stage can impact future development. Okay, for the second theory is Marshall's identity development theory. This theory building on Erikson's stage of identity vs role confusions. James Marshall developed a more detailed model of adolescent identity formation. He identified 4 identity status based on 2 dimensions, which is exploration and commitment. Okay, for the first status is identity diffusion, which is no exploration and no commitment. And second is foreclosure, which is commitment without exploration, often based on others' expectations. Okay, third status is moratorium, which is active exploration and no commitment yet. And lastly is identity achievement, which is explore option and make a commit choice. Okay, this theory helps explain the different paths adolescents might take in forming their identity. For example, someone in moratorium is still figuring things out, while someone in foreclosure might accept a career path chosen by their parents without question. Now let's look at Albert Bandura's social learning theory. This theory, which emphasizes the importance of observational learning, imitation, and modeling. The key concept is people learn by watching others. For example, children who see their parents solving problems calmly are likely to adopt similar behaviors. Bandura introduced the concept of reciprocal determinism. This concept that suggests the idea that behavior, personal factors, and the environment all influence each other. Bandura's social learning theory famous Bobodol experiments showed that children who watch an adult act aggressively toward adult were more likely to imitate that aggressive behavior. This demonstrates that learning can occur even without direct reinforcement, but just by observing others. Now let's compare these three theories. The first theory, Adolescence, focused on lifespan development and the psychosocial challenge at each stage. The second theory, which is Masha zooms in on identity information during adolescence. But the third theory is Bandura, highlight the social context of learning and the role of modeling behavior. Okay, for the real life application, these theories aren't just academic, but they have real life applications. For example, in school, teachers can support students in identity exploration, which is Masha, and model positive behaviors, which is Bandura. But in counseling, therapists use adolescent stage to understand where a client might be developmentally stuck. But also in parenting, understanding these models can help guide healthy child development. Okay, in conclusion, Adolescence, Masha and Bandura each other valuable insights into how we develop across the lifespan. Understanding these theories help us better support personal growth, education and mental health in ourselves and others. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
First of all, let's discuss about the risk issue of social development in adolescence. In adolescence, there are many issues such as suicide. Suicide is one of the factors that can lead adolescents to death, especially in America. In America, there are many people or younger people that are die from getting suicide compared to disease such as COPD, lung disease, heart disease, and AIDS and influenza. But many men will commit to do suicide compared to female. There are such many factors that can lead male to do suicide compared to female, such as stress and another factor. But in America, there are also white people and non-white people. White people is usually attempt more or higher rate of suicide compared to non-white people. Other than that, suicide in America is higher compared to another country, especially in America, that have the highest suicide rate of any ethnic group, compared to Asian America that has the lowest rate. Although the suicide rate in America is slowly decline, but it is higher in adolescent compared to any age of group, except for elderly. For the factor, we have three factors that leads adolescent to do suicide or commit suicide. Let's look at the first factor, which is the perfectionist who is inhibited from social and have anxiety, especially when they face social and academic challenge. It is because we need to communicate with another person during our life, especially in academic. For example, we need to communicate or speaking with another person during speaking tests in English, and during the group presentation, we need to communicate with another person. When the perfectionist that inhibited from the social and have anxiety, they cannot perform the best performance in the many from of the many people. This will lead to stress that then will lead to suicide in young people. Then for the second factor, we have bully. Bully is very serious factor, especially in America. In high school in America, there are many cases of bully that will cause the bullied person will lead to suicide or take their own life. And For the third factor, we have family background. Family background is very related to suicide case, especially in adolescent. It is because family background will shape the behavior of the adolescent in their future. Other than that, adolescent will learn the behavior from their parent. But if their parent have complete conflict between the parents and their children, this may lead to adolescent behavior problems in the future. For example, the adolescent will drop out of school, or maybe their behavior will be more aggressive compared to another adolescent. Another example is drug abuser. Drug abuser, when they cannot get the drug, their behavior will be more aggressive, and sometimes the conflict between the parents and children may occur, and another children or adolescent will watch what their parents do and makes the painful experience in the adolescent. This will make the adolescent more stressed and lastly will do suicide. Before that, we can solve the problem or prevent it by look at the sign such as first, school problem, second, loss of appetite, third, less sleep, and lastly, there are more depression or sign of depression. Then before this happen, we can do the prevention by seek to the professional help such as counseling. Before we last our discussion, I want to summary or conclude this discussion. We have social development of adolescent, factor and stage of the social development. Social development is very important in adolescent. Why I say that? It is because adolescent will expand their social circle. For example, we can look at when adolescent join a team sport such as rugby, football, or another sport, they will make communication and expand the social circle between them. And other than that, they will expand their role. For example, they will take the responsibility to be a leadership. This may help adolescents to be more independent and will lead others toward the same goal. Other than that, adolescents will develop social skill. Social skill is very important. It is because adolescents may have built more complex social skill compared to middle child or early child. Lastly, they will explore and form their own identity. This helps them to find who they are and where or what they want to do in the future. For the factor, we have 4 factors, which is first, family. In adolescent stage, there are less time spent with their family. It is because they want to be more independent and want to explore the world by their own. The second factor is peers. Many adolescents spend more time with their peers compared to their own family. The positive relationship between the peers and adolescent make the adolescent more happier and more peaceful. The third factor is culture. Culture will encourage adolescents to express their own personal opinion and independent lifestyle. The last factor is media. Media is important because it can be an agent to provide a medium of socialization, and then it will influence our point of view. Lastly, we have stage of the social development, which is first, identity diffusion, second, identity foreclosure, third, identity moratorium, and lastly, identity achievement. Thank you for the listening. Thank you, Doctor.